Hello, this Learn to Learn Study Coach video discusses the ways to prepare for a test. Alright, so really to prepare for any test, think of it as three phases. You have your introduction phase, where you're introduced for the first time to the material, then you organize the material, and then you study the material for max comprehension or you master the material. Another way to look at it from your introduction phase is this is when you first are introduced to the material. This is when you're 10 class, or you're reading the textbook, or you're watching a video. This is the stage where you're taking your notes, and right after you're first introduced to the material, the first thing you want to do is immediately review the material. So right after a class, the thing you want to do is quickly, even if you only have 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, just immediately review the information. Then when you go home, you can do a more in-depth review. Also during this introduction phase, make sure you're trying to get max understanding, so you're asking questions and you're doing all your homework. That takes you then to the organization phase. Once you've first gained that information, now let's organize it for future reviews. That's when you can recopy your notes, summarize your notes, make tables and graphs so you can do some comparisons and some contrast. Here's where you would make your flashcards. Another great technique is to record your notes. Actually read your notes and make recordings of them. Then we're into our third phase, our comprehension phase. Here's where you master the material. That's when you do more in-depth reviewing of your notes, you're reviewing the flashcards, you're reviewing the summaries. These are all things you produce during this organization stage. You're listening to your recordings, you're working your problems, for example, math problems. Study groups can be very effective. You're making your own tests, another great technique. Now you're really trying to memorize the material. And then recitation. If you can recite the material, if you can tell yourself or tell somebody else what you have learned, that's a great way to increase comprehension. Another way to look at this graphically is in the introduction phase, the material you are receiving, it might be very vague and very confusing. You might even be frustrated at this point that you really don't understand what the teacher is trying to convey to you. But now as you start working with the material, for example, during that immediate review, things can start taking shape and you can start at least grasping what you have just been introduced to. Now organization. While organization phase, you're really not actively necessarily studying for comprehension. Just the mere fact that you're working with the material, guess what? Things are starting to take shape a little bit better, and then as you do some active studying, then your comprehension will greatly increase and things will come into a clearer view. Another key concept for you is as you progress during your academic period, let's say it's 10 weeks here, what you want to do is material that you've learned in the first week, when you're in the second week, go ahead and loop back and review some of that material. So you are always reviewing back. In the fifth week, you could be reviewing back to the fourth and the third weeks. So you're not always just studying what you're presented immediately, but these active reviews of the material throughout the grading period will greatly increase your comprehension. So when it's time for, let's say, a final here, you don't have to go all the way back to learn the material from the very beginning, because you have actively worked with that material throughout that grading period and your comprehension will be greatly increased. We hope this Study Coach video was beneficial, and please contact Learn to Learn if you have any questions, comments, or need additional information. Thank you.